with maximum penalties, right, that don't have to be related to any provable damages by the plaintiff. So, for example, Mike, if you go and download movie X or whatever, in most countries, the copyright holder who would sue you, okay, if they are so inclined, would have to prove the damage you did. So let's say you downloaded it once and uploaded it 5 times. Well, they say, well, it's 6 times the unit value of our product. So you're probably out $150. Do you know what I mean? But now in Canada, the changes that they're proposing, that they don't have to, the settlement doesn't have to be linked to provable damages. So you're starting off at 25 grand for downloading a movie. This is my understanding of it. This is what I've read. I'd encourage, and this is a situation that I would encourage people to do their own research. Okay, and can you imagine this? Let's put it this way: Stephen Harper's appointed person who can demand identities. Right, the ISP doesn't have to go and tell MGM what you downloaded, Mike. They don't have to do that.
Right. They
can choose to or not to do that. Right. Because they can say that, you know, when you're on the internet, you have the presumed right of privacy which supersedes your copyright. So we don't have to hand that information out. Not to say that some ISPs don't, but they have the option. You know what I mean?
You know, and I think I hear what you're saying to me here, Tony. You put these things together. You put the bill
you know
together.
What? You could easily identify a list of NDP supporters
and litigate them to death.
Oh yeah, bankrupt them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because you decide it's easy.
I don't think Stephen Harper would do that, Tony.
Okay, I admit that is me drifting off on a speculative tangent there, but Stephen Harper may or may not be inclined to do something like that. He may or may not be inclined to use insidious tactics to thwart his enemies. Him use
insidious tactics.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I think your speculation isn't that far gone. I mean, it's obviously speculation. You're not accusing them of doing that per se, but when you look at the pieces that are out there right now, and you look at their previous actions, I think that Lindsey said it best, that it facilitates these sort of actions. It makes them very, very, very possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. So I'm not saying that that's possible. I'm just saying, why exactly is it that we want to go giving our government that kind of power? Like, you know, is this something we really want to do? I don't know.
Right.
To me, it's something you just shouldn't even go anywhere near that, man. And that's why hopefully round 2 is fought just as strongly as round 1 was. And I got to point out that as we played the Charlie Angus clip after that Lindsey Pinto interview, I got to say I really enjoy hearing Charlie stand up on these issues. That guy.
Oh, this is one of the issues that he's really, really good at. I mean, he's been at this. He's been on this topic for quite some time now. So
yeah, and that's an example of a seasoned professional. He's got the right amount of humanity, indignation, and professional articulation going on that makes me really gravitate to his message. That's a seasoned professional right there. Yeah, and talk about seasoned professionals. Someone else was in the news recently and has had a bit of a rough go of it. Justin Trudeau. Have you been following that at all, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a little bit busy over the past couple of weeks, but I always try to keep up as much as I can. And, I think the most simple way to sum up the Justin Trudeau, I don't even know what you want to call it. I mean, as far as the Conservatives are concerned, it was a mistake. But I think what he meant to say was Stephen Harper's government is giving Quebecers a new reason to consider sovereignty as an issue. I mean, he didn't say it that way, but I mean, that's what it sounded like to me.
That was essentially what he did say. Like he said it's understandable that some Quebecers would be looking at sovereignty. I mean, those are not anywhere nearly his exact words, but essentially what he said, it's understandable that some Quebecers would be looking at sovereignty to escape the Harper policies and the direction that Harper is taking this country in. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've
So
said
the
it before.
person who's really at fault here is Stephen Harper. I mean, and trying to attach Justin Trudeau's comments to like the older reasons for a sovereignty movement in Quebec are outrageous, because what he was really saying was that Stephen Harper keeps moving Canada further and further to the right.
Yeah.
Everything from economics through to its social policy, just all the through and through. And that's going to just leave a bad taste in Canada's most progressive province,
Absolutely.
Quebec.
And this is something that people shouldn't forget about the sovereigntist movement, is that it doesn't have its roots in any kind of hatred of English Canada. It has its roots in a resistance to the right-wing agenda. The separatist movement is not about language, it's about progressive policy.
Exactly.
As in, they just find Canada too right-wing. You know what I mean? And that's the history of the sovereigntist movement, you know. And for them to try to tar Justin Trudeau with that brush, it's just like, it's predictable. It's part of their playbook. You know what I mean? Just like John Baird came out this week and said and talked about the WikiLeaks thing on Twitter, and he just, for no reason, with no proof whatsoever, he just blamed it on the NDP. There you go, NDP did it. You know what I mean? So he reframes the debate, and then the NDP is on the defensive about that. So with almost no reason, the Conservatives are shameless enough just to reframe the debate about, it's not about whether or not Vic Taves deserves privacy on the internet. It's about whether or not those dastardly NDP are attacking their cabinet ministers using, you know, insidious tactics.
Well, hey, Tony, you want to talk about a little bit of speculation. This is something that there's no evidence for, but I mean, if Baird's going to come out and say this about the NDP, if this IP address, which is also, it's not easy to identify the exact person, this IP address belongs to or is used at Parliament Hill, but it's also been linked to a Conservative senator, a Conservative MP, and a Liberal MP. So to point fingers directly at the NDP, I mean, couldn't the NDP have come out and done the same thing that Baird did and say, no, this is the Conservatives are doing this, and they're going to use it as a wedge issue.
Nobody else is shameless enough to do that. Nobody else is shameless enough to do that. The Conservatives will do stuff like that. It's part of their playbook, you know, just there's an opportunity to totally misrepresent what Justin Trudeau said and tar him as a sovereigntist. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, I've said it before in the show. I'm not a sovereigntist, but if I lived in Quebec, I'd think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would think about it because, quite frankly, Quebec has a different set of values. They're more progressive and they're more left-wing than we are, amongst other things.
The only province where you could actually talk like that and be listened to as it being a reasonable option.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not going to hear that in Ontario. Ontario's not going to say, well, you know, this is really starting to bother me. Maybe we should go it on our own here. So, you know, Stephen Harper needs to, instead of accuse Justin Trudeau of being a separatist, maybe he should wake up and realize that, his policies are completely unacceptable to Quebecers, and that Justin Trudeau, might understand Quebecers more than he does.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we've talked about Justin Trudeau, and the reason I'm interested in even talking about this issue is because this is a potential Liberal leader at some point in time. If it was just some MP that the Conservatives scored a few political points off of, then this isn't interesting enough to talk about. But we have this example of Conservative tactics that we can talk about, and we also have Justin Trudeau's reaction, which we can also discuss in terms of how it affects his potential profile as a leader. You know what I mean? Do you want to play a bit that comes from his scrum outside of the House of Commons after this situation?
Yeah, let's hear how he did defending himself.
Let's do this. Here we go.
The question is not why does Justin Trudeau suddenly not love his country, because the question is ridiculous. I live this country in my bones every breath I take, and I'm not going to stand here and somehow defend that I actually do love Canada, because we know I love Canada. The question is what's happening to our country. Why do millions of Quebecers not see themselves in this government? Why do millions of women not recognize this country? Why do millions of young people disconnect from our politics from our world because they do not see the Canada that we've built over decades reflected not in the policies of this government, but in the values that this government's putting forward. This country is a country of openness, of respect, of compassion, of the rule of law, of the rights of the individuals, of freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from crime, freedom to love who you want and not be judged for it, freedom to do what you want with your body. These freedoms are the very things that Stephen Harper and his government are trying to take away. So ask me if I'm upset at the direction he's taking this government and this country.
He can either stand with us or with the child pornographers.
I couldn't resist putting that taser at the end there. But hey, Mike, if you listen to that and then I told you that Justin Trudeau used to be a high school drama teacher, would you be shocked?
No.
Okay. Well, on one level, I find this bit to be, in this performance on his part, to be very encouraging, because clearly this is an individual who is practicing his leadership chops. You know
Right,
what I
yeah,
mean?
that was obviously something he had put together and had probably done some rehearsing.
Yeah, perhaps. And on the on the other side of that coin, I really don't think the performance was very good. He might want to reconsider the level of grandstanding that was happening there.
Yeah, the message was good, but I mean the way that it was performed.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I think that a leader of a political party, is at least 50% salesperson. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I don't depend on a leader for all the ideas. I think that the grassroots should be partially responsible for generating
for sure.
a set
I
of
mean, in
ideas.
fact, I would say that the leader is not responsible for ideas. I wouldn't want to say at all.
Yeah.
But if he's not listening to other people, then that's a big problem. That sounds
Absolutely.
like Stephen Harper.
Yeah, absolutely. So, given the fact that in my opinion, a leader of a liberal party, for example, is going to have to be at least 50% salesperson. That's his sales techniques right there, and at work. That's his performance. I think he needs to fine tune that a little less grandstanding. Take a little bit more of a page from Charlie Angus's book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Charlie Angus is not a showboat. That's why people can gravitate to his message. And
But you can hear a little bit more anger in Charlie Angus's.
Yeah, even though it's more reserved and subdued, there is more genuine, heartfelt anger coming out of Charlie Angus, and he doesn't betray any unprofessional kind of attitude or delivery. Which
Yeah.
I think that I just think that Justin Trudeau has some work to do on that before he presents himself as leader, and I think, and from every indication that we've seen in the past year or so, they are grooming him. You know, I think all of this stuff is fairly calculated. I think that his whole outburst calling what's his name a piece of shit, Peter Kent.
Right.
You know, I think that's calculated. And then again, boom, the scrum is waiting for him as he exits the building, right? And boom, he gets a chance to practice his chops. Now, Justin Trudeau is no Pierre Elliott Trudeau, that's for sure.
Right.
Pierre Elliott Trudeau is just a cool guy. You know, Justin Trudeau is not going to be able to pull off that kind of charisma. He's going to be able to benefit a lot from the memory that he's able to inspire in people of how inspired his father made Canadians feel, you know?
I suppose. I mean, the only thing that I guess with Trudeau is, I think that his father was, how do you put that? Where his father, made people loved Pierre Elliott Trudeau or hated him.
Yeah.
My grandmother hated Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
Yeah.
And, all she would have to hear was like somebody was distantly related to him, and she would hate that person probably. So
Yeah.
I mean,
He
I
was
guess
a
it could go
polarizing
either
figure.
way,
He was an
but
absolutely polarizing figure, and that's fine, right? Because think about it, you only have to have 50% in an ideal situation. You only have to have 50% plus one people love you.